Hey guys, today we are doing a first impressions on this Smashbox Studio Skin 15-hour wear hydrating foundation. And this is not a new foundation. This is actually quite an old foundation. However, they did recently come out with some extra shades and I could finally get a somewhat decent color match. Also, the reason that I picked this up was that I noticed on the box that it said oil-free controls oil all day. I just feel like I would have been more interested in this product had I known that that was the case, because I feel like the title of it, hydrating foundation, just really doesn't speak to me as someone with oily skin. It also says it's a medium to full buildable coverage, sweat, humidity, and exercise resistant, color true, transfer resistant with a demi matte finish. Okay, so I got the shade 0.2, which says very fair with warm peach undertones. Okay, so this is the foundation I'm trying with today, the Smashbox Studio Skin Foundation in the shade 0.2. This is the Cover FX Power Play Foundation in the shade G10. Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation in the shade 1W1, and the NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation in the shade Gobi. I paid 46 Canadian dollars for this foundation, so it would be a little bit cheaper in the States. And you do get the full fluid ounce. It doesn't have a strong scent, has a little bit of like that kind of paint-like smell, but it's very faint. And by the way, I do not have a primer on my skin. I just tend to not really like primers that much. And also, I do feel like primers can alter the way the foundation looks, and I really just want to test this out on its own. So I'm just using a sponge for this side. I think the shade is going to be okay as long as it doesn't turn orange. It's definitely not a yellow undertone, which is something that I think is missing in this shade range. Like, there were no fair or like light with a yellow undertone, although they did have a light shade with an olive undertone, which I thought was really great, but it was just too dark for me. All right, so I've just done this half of my face. I think it looks really good, actually. I would say a medium-ish coverage. Obviously, it did not cover like my acne scars or like this little pimple I have here. A little bit of my natural redness is still coming through a bit. Right, and for this side, I'm using my Sigma F88 flat angled kabuki. I don't feel like the coverage really got that much better with a brush. This side probably just looks better because I don't have like as many scars or anything. But it does say buildable, so let's try and build up a little bit on that little friend. I feel like the sponge is just kind of taking off coverage, so let's just use a finger. I don't know, the foundation really isn't sticking to breakouts, which isn't abnormal. I feel like a lot of foundations, they just can't stick to like a raised smooth surface like a pimple. I really like the finish of it. There's still like a slight bit of dew to my skin, but it's drying down and it feels like really stuck to the skin. Like it's not just sitting on top of it, which I like. I feel like my nose looks a little bit dry, which is kind of odd considering the name of this foundation says hydrating in it, but I also did not apply a moisturizer like directly before I put this foundation on. Okay, so I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup. I am going into breakfast with one of my friends, so I've got to finish getting ready, and I will be back probably in I want to say 2.5 hours to show you how the foundation is holding up on my oily skin. I'm not going to be setting it with a powder, so we're really going to put it to the test. Okay, so the foundation has been on for about 2.5 hours at this point. It still looks pretty much exactly the same. It is totally like dry, like I'm not getting any transfer at all. And I don't have any oil on my skin as of yet. I will check back in with you guys in a bit. Okay, I've been wearing the foundation for 5 hours at this point. I'm noticing some slight creasing in my smile lines, but it's not bad yet. I can feel that my face is starting to feel not really oily, but it's like the very beginning stages of oil starting to happen under the foundation. So it just doesn't quite feel as like powdery soft anymore. You know, it doesn't really look cakey anywhere. It doesn't appear to have really rubbed off anywhere. It honestly is just looking good. By the way, I decided to not even try to cover up this pimple because it just looked so cakey and so fake when I tried to put concealer on it, so I just let it shine today. Hey guys, the foundation has now been on for almost 9 hours. You know, it never was full coverage to begin with, but it still looks almost the same as when I applied it. My blush is still just as intense as when I applied it. I usually apply blush more intense than I probably should because I know that it's gonna wear off partway through the day, but I feel like it looks pretty much the same. The dryness that I was talking about in some areas, such as the end of my nose, you know, that didn't really get better with time. I thought that once my oil started coming through, it wouldn't look quite as dry. And I mean, it's not like it's that bad or anything. It just looks a little bit like dried foundation. This line in between my eyebrows has looked much worse with other foundations. I also feel like oil controlling wise, this is also really good. Like, I did not blot or touch up at all today. This is almost comparable to how my Estee Lauder Double Wear would look at the end of the day. Is this foundation the most beautiful, most natural looking foundation I've ever worn? No, definitely not. I can tell that I have foundation on, which is not my favorite look, but I don't mind it. There are some times when I just need a foundation that is gonna really last and look decent. I don't really care if it looks like I have foundation on. That's what I rely on my Estee Lauder Double Wear for. That to me does not look like skin. It looks like I'm wearing foundation, but it looks nice and it lasts really long on my oily skin. And this foundation did the same thing for me. I think definitely with like a setting spray and a really good moisturizer, I could probably alleviate some of like the dry patches that I was seeing. Yeah, this to me is one of the longest wearing foundations that I've tried lately. I think this is definitely worth the try. Even if you have oily or combo skin and you're kind of like, about the whole hydrating factor in the name of this foundation, like don't be afraid of that. Like this dried to like a semi-matte finish and it stayed on like all day. Anyway guys, that is the end of this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've tried this foundation, if you like this foundation. And as always, you can subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. I put out new ones every single week. I love you guys so much and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you.